thought I'd do the whole update like this. Is this good? I think this is great. Welcome to summer, folks. I'm sweating, dog. Now, the problem with summer vlogs is, aside from the light, the extreme light, the temperature is making me either have to open the window, letting all the noise of the street in. Yeah. Thanks for proving my point. Or I have to fucking turn my chunky ventilation thingy box on, which is noisy as hell as well. So either I have to deal with shitty audio or sweaty bad air. So this is a lose-lose situation for all of us. I'm so glad if you like the season of summer, but it ain't my thing. To make up for that though, most of the books that I'm gonna be talking about in June do actually relate to June, in that I tried to get into like a summerly vibe, something like that. You'll see. This is how we're gonna do it again. I'm gonna be sprawled like a freaking bag of potatoes on my couch, sweating like a pig, while the June sky is just blown out. Welcome to Matt Jerkhold's first June book vlog. Now, this is part 1. We're gonna be talking about 3 books in this one. 2 of them have a theme, a subject that actually connects them a little bit. They have a similarity in that regard. The first book that I'm gonna be talking about though, which is the one that I announced in the previous vlog, is not part of that, and it's probably gonna be the book this month, in the entire month, that's gonna be the most like standalone-ish, without any relation to the rest, because my June reading, my plans for June reading are actually pretty stacked, and there's gonna be themes that connects them, except this first book that I'm starting this vlog with. This is a standalone thing carried over from last month. And yeah, if I sound weird, I do have either like a cold thing that I caught somewhere, or there's allergies involved, which I didn't have in the past, but I guess that might have developed over the years. Or, which I don't even want to exclude completely as an option, it's both. Anyway, we're talking about books here. The first book that I'm going to be talking about is How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy by Jenny Odell. So let's put a summerly bow around this. Let's make this match with the season. The summer season means the summer vacation is coming up, which is for most people the biggest like vacation time aside from the holidays in winter. And what do most people do on vacation? They travel, they hang out, they do chill stuff with their friends, whatever. They don't usually, if they can, they do not walk. Why? Because there's more things in life to fulfill you personally than walk. And now, maybe you even used your summer vacation to do nothing. What that means is up for grabs. You might be talking about literally sitting in a chair and not doing anything. Or it's just like we're exploring in this book, doing nothing in the context of Jenny Odell's book means to not be productive. How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy is largely about the drive to be productive in modern day society. Obviously driven by mostly capitalistic mechanisms. And so while the subtitle is like resisting the attention economy, it's not like entirely about the attention economy, meaning the way that the most valuable thing nowadays for companies is our attention. That is what most technology and entertainment is based on, to grab our attention, not let it go, and like get the most of information from us and get the most impact onto us in some sort of like profitable way for a company, right? That is what we live in. That is the most valuable thing that companies aim for, our attention. Social media is the most obvious example for that, right? But it's obviously in more traditional media as well. And it also feeds into the idea that more and more aspects of our life are being monetized or exploited. More and more parts of our personal lives are getting drawn into that capitalistic shtick of companies trying to draw the most profit out of it, draw the most profit out of every single detail of our personal lives. Anything that exists, you can bet on the fact that somebody somewhere tried to make a buck of it. Arguably, the only thing that's left that is ours to claim, debatably, is sleep. And the book How to Do Nothing is by and large an exploration of the circumstances that we live in, a little bit how we got here, where we can like catch those elements of life, and possibly how we can avoid them or like resist them for our own personal well-being. This book didn't tell me something I didn't already know. It's not like that, but it was very interesting to read these subjects and these thoughts spelled out in a thoughtful way and in a researched way. The first part of this book also like deals largely with like examples in history of people or communities that try to resist this sort of society and like so basically live off the grid and do their own thing without having the pressure to be always productive, because that is also like, it's really, really easy nowadays to feel like a person's worth is 100% determined by their productivity. But that's something I've thought about for years already, and that I had personal problems with, that I had to deal with in my own ways over the past years. That is something that's definitely true, that the way people are tested and trained throughout their lives and the expectations that come with them are also in relation to like just building their existence. There's a huge emphasis on some sort of productivity and efficiency, and it's really problematic when people, human beings, get reduced to that one metric, which seems to become a bigger problem as time goes on. And these are the subjects that the book deals with. And so this book is, from what I saw, it's kind of divisive. The opinions, the reviews, like, they are on the two extremes of the rating system, kind of. And I can see why, and I think I'm in the middle of that. For one, I think people have pretty specific expectations because of the title, like How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy. Sounds very much like a self-help book, and like a more focused criticism on like the attention-driven technology, social media, that sort of thing, which is a subject in this, but it is not the all-encompassing core of it. It's one puzzle piece, and this book is taking more steps back to really get a bigger picture of it all, which is something that I personally liked. Probably my favorite part of this book was the, I think, first third or something, where she was talking about how more and more things about life were caught to be made profitable in some sort of another, and also talking about how people throughout history, even back to ancient philosophers, to like recent colonies in the like last like 1,000 years or something or whatever, how people have throughout history already recognized that system in some sort of way and tried to resist it or escape it, mostly failed due to this reason and whatnot or whatever. And it's really interesting stuff. It's really colorful, well researched. There's a lot of like variety, in my opinion. I'm sure most, if not all, that watching this right now are not like surprised or like mind blown by that. We all are aware of that to some degree or another, but it's cool that this book is actually like exploring that whole phenomenon, you know, actually researching it throughout history and putting both cultural, historic and scientific elements in there, but also personal anecdotes of the author's own like experience with that. And that also brings me to what I believe to be the second biggest criticism towards this book from people, is that for a lot of people the balance between personal anecdotes and like research isn't struck right, and I can see why. For example, the author uses the hobby of bird watching a lot as an example of like escaping the grasp for attention by some external force, escaping the attention economy, and instead focusing one's own attention on something just for pleasure, for own personal pleasure, completely purposefully. Birdwatching is the author's like go-to example for that, because that is something that she herself found for herself. So it makes sense thematically, but a criticism that I've read a couple of times online is that for some people these anecdotes, especially the birdwatching ones, can be a bit overbearing and repetitive, because they come up quite a lot of times, and I get that, especially in the second half of the book, or like around the middle of the book. I had like a slump about that too, where it was a little bit like, okay, I get it, we gotta get over this now, we gotta get to something else. This is a little bit too much of bird watching here for my taste as well, so I get that criticism. Doesn't ruin the whole book though for me. And yeah, for me this book was neither great nor terrible. It had very interesting parts, and it has like decent parts, mediocre parts that I won't remember for that much. Nothing in here I hated though, but I also wouldn't call this book like a must read. It's not like that mind-blowing or like life-changing or whatever. It's just a mostly well-written and well-composed study, personal study of this whole like phenomenon, this whole like culture we are experiencing, and that it does mostly well. If it is something that you're interested in, you might as well just grab it and give it a shot. Now it does point very well, that this is one of my highlights about this book, I think, when it does talk about social media and the technology of the attention grabbing business schemes. Jenny Odell can really pinpoint how that sort of thing affects us, and how that is leading to social media becoming like toxic, mind-numbing echo chambers and things, because the attention economy just amplifies the whole rush of constant information about things, plus the deadly combination with the always like sensationalizing worst possible outcome sort of like news journalism, that is flushed in there, always grabbing for our attention with the like worst headlines and whatever, always trying to make us feel something. Most of the time it's anger or sadness, so we pay attention to any fucking dumb shit that happens or any important shit that happens, but we get flushed with it so intensely and in such a way that it less informs us and helps us to build a productive opinion or stance on an important matter, and more so that it just becomes blank, overwhelming fodder for businesses to catch our attention in hopes for them to make a profit. That is a subject that is incredibly important and something that I have spent time with over the couple of years a lot, because I hate that shit to the bone and with a passion. How the modern state of technology and journalism is making important subjects almost impossible for us to engage with productively. And there's things about that this book by Jenny Odell does pinpoint pretty well, in my opinion, and really puts into well thought out words, which is something that I really liked about this book. I just wanted to get that out there as well. If that is a subject that is interesting to you, I don't know if this book is probably not like the creme de la creme in terms of that subject, but it certainly does have golden nuggets about that in there. Now, anti-capitalist self-help book or whatever out of the way, let's come in with the June summer season reading. Yay, yoo-hoo, woo! I've been a summer grump so many times already, you know that. I like the beginning of this video alone was like loud enough to make that very clear for any viewer. But I sort of actively tried to get my reading in order to make the summer season a little bit more bearable, I guess. I wanted to match my reading to the season, sort of, to, make use of the season for something I enjoy, I guess. And so the next two books have coincidentally, I guess, they have a subject that they share. And that is both deal with sort of like mermaids, sort of like deep sea communities. And we're gonna start with The Deep by Rivers Solomon. Well, the cover also says with David Dix, William Hudson, Jonathan Snipes, whatever. Those three people are on there as well. And maybe those names are familiar to you, maybe not. Those three people make up the experimental industrial hip-hop trio Clipping, which is one of my favorite bands, musicians out there of all time. I fucking love Clipping. A couple of years ago, they did a 3-track EP called The Deep, which was a concept EP telling the story of a people of mermaids that were the descendants of African people that were thrown off a slave ship. So it's like a alternative history fantasy story that they created for their 3-track EP. This book is basically based on that, where this book is taking that story and fleshes it out to a full novel as a sort of companion piece, as a sort of alternative version. And the three names are on the cover because it was a sort of cooperative work. Being such a great fan of Clipping, liking their three track EP with the same title as well, and genuinely just loving the setup of the story for some potentially really interesting like cultural exploration. I was really stoked when I found out that there was a full novel about this. And, it's summerly. If you think about like summer or like a summer vacation or whatever, I think the beach and the ocean is like one of the top things that people associate with that. And I thought I might as well read like an ocean story to get my June started. And the deep sounded like not only fitting in that regard, but also might be something that I can take an actual like cultural value of. And I do think that is true, because with that setup, that story setup of like mermaid descendants of drowned African slaves, you obviously get an exploration about delicate historical subjects that are baked into this fantasy story. And what the Deep mainly deals with is things like the burden of your own or like your people's difficult history, but also the empowerment that you can take from a painful history, and the meaning and power of community. Those sort of things are the main themes of this novel. Story-wise, it deals with one of the mermaids in this deep sea community, who is the current generation's like chosen historian, meaning she is the only person that remembers their painful past. So the painful past of the people of the entire community. But so much so that it takes over her entire life. She doesn't have her own personality anymore, really. She's just reliving and re-experiencing these painful memories of their descendants. As part of like a yearly tradition in that community, she's supposed to share the memories with the rest of the community. So once a year, everybody gets reminded where they come from. But for the rest of the year, she carries these painful memories on her own, so the rest of the mermaid people isn't burdened by them. She is taking the pain for everybody else. And so in this book, she decides to say, fuck it, you all take the shitty memories, I'm gonna fuck off and live my own life for once. And that's basically how this thing like opens up. And it was good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, I think the story setup alone is so original and clever that it warrants like a peek if that interests you in any way. It also like doesn't hurt that this novel is not long at all. It's pretty dang short. It's well written. It has some cool ideas. It has a pretty dang good like mystical atmosphere to it throughout it all. There is definitely like a fairy tale element to this, which fits nicely though with this whole thing. And yeah, this was cool. Like knowing that 3-track EP by Clipping, which I listened to for years already because it's been quite old. It was actually really cool to read this book now and recognize things from the lyrics of those songs in this novel. That was actually a cool experience. And this also has an afterword by the Clipping people, which tells the reader a bit about how this where this idea came from and how it was how it developed from song to novel and things like that. There's some cool shit in here. And of course the entire like underwater culture is super interesting. It's not like super focused on that, but there are cool things in that regard as well, which I'm always down for. Especially if you have a book about mermaids, you gotta have something like that in there, obviously. And it was a really, really solid read for sure. I do definitely recommend this if the story, the setup is something that you're interested in. And then after that, I spontaneously read another like mermaid ocean creature sort of thing, because I read Aquaman Volume 1 by Geoff Jones. I do like Aquaman. I'm not like a huge comic book guy, right? But Aquaman would be one of the superheroes that I would be more inclined to get into, because one, I do love the entire like underwater setting, like I'm a big sucker for that, and any story that has interactions of like deep sea creatures or like explorations of underwater locations, I'm always interested in that. And two, Aquaman's reputation in pop culture for being such a weirdo oddball that nobody cares for has led the character to become more interesting, I think, which this comic book also like capitalizes on. Actually, this was written published in like 2011 or 12 or something, and this actually incorporates the like unpopular reputation of Aquaman. In this comic book, he is like made fun of by the public. People ask him how he talks to fish and shit, and if he has seen all those parodies of his on YouTube. Like, nobody takes him seriously, just like in real life. The author, Geoff Jones, when he got onto making this reboot of Aquaman, decided to completely incorporate that and make it part of the character, which is a clever idea. And I'm sure it was even more clever back in 2011, though nowadays it feels a bit flat because we have better examples of that. Like even the DC Aquaman movie from 2018, I believe, which gave Aquaman a complete like revamp and made him like a badass dude played by Jason Momoa with like fancy production value and shit. Even that was a sort of like subversion of expectations when it comes from Aquaman. And also the TV show The Boys, which is like a huge, like really clever subversion of superhero tropes, also has the character of the Deep, which is basically an Aquaman stand-in, which is a really, really interesting character in itself because it explores all of these things. So while it certainly is cool that Geoff Jones incorporated Aquaman's real-life reputation in this reboot comic book back in 2011 or 12, it doesn't hold up. That specific element doesn't really hold up to what we already have since then. We have better explorations of that Aquaman archetype in other media. But as an Aquaman comic, and I haven't like read any others, so I don't have anything to compare, but this was solid. I mean, it has pretty cool drawings. This first volume includes like the first 6, I believe, comics of this reboot run, and the main storyline deals with these like deep sea creatures that Aquaman fights, and there is some cool visuals with that. Yeah, it's just neat. It's nothing great. I didn't buy this. I didn't get this from the library or anything. I've had this on my shelf for probably 10 years and I've not read it up till now. This was a birthday present from a friend at some point and I just never got to it. So I guess I'm glad I finally fucking dug it out of the shelf and gave it a look. And I did enjoy it fairly well. But, you know, as all these like comics, these superhero comics are, it's all a bit shallow and brief and rushed. and it never goes really in depth. I mean, this isn't a graphic novel with like full deep story. This still is a compilation of 6 comic serials. So it is entertaining, it is lightweight, but it's probably nothing I will think back on in the long run. But yeah, that was my 2 mermaid reads, and the Anticapitalist sci-fi book, with which I started the month of June and the summer season. That's the first part of my June update, and the second part is gonna be, I guess, sort of a Pride Month special, because my reading plans for the rest of the month are all sort of Pride Month related. I have a bunch of books that I want to get to that deal with gender identities and such. But yeah, that's gonna be it for part 1. Thanks for watching. Good luck out there during swamp ass season. Don't get your coochie sweaty, whatever. Stay hydrated. Bye bye.